lining up. If there's anybody else who wishes to speak, please line up.
Wow, can I get land that easy? I know there's a couple of open parking lots that are open all the time.
Jim, you gotta put your name.
Oh, I'm Jim Peterson, Peterson, Sudden Valley. All right, I'm here to give a little update on where HomesNOW is now. We have one of the tiny homes for our pilot project built, ready to go. We had a place to put it. We could house somebody today, but we don't. We have got some wins. Last night at City Council, the police chief notified us that they're going to put porta pots and dumpsters around some of the homeless camps now. They also made it legal for you to sleep in your car now. And they're going to come up with, today they were supposed to identify 3 or 4 spots that people could park long term. So we'll see. It's supposed to, the porta pots and dumpsters are supposed to be done this week. By Friday, we were told. We don't know the locations yet, but we'll know that hopefully tomorrow. I'm here to ask where we're at with HomesNOW now. Are we making any progress? I talked to Todd, me and Doug had talked to Todd, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago before you left the country. We ran you out of the country or something. And we are willing to look at the jail site. We went out there and looked at it. It's a doable thing. We went and presented to the city of Ferndale. We didn't think we'd hear back because they notified us they don't have any homeless people, which they do, but they don't want to admit it. But 4 days after we met with them, they emailed us back, was glad that we came, wanted to talk with us more. We emailed them back about wanting to use the jail, but Todd notified us that since it's inside the city limits of Ferndale, they have to write the zoning and that. So we got an email back from the director of their planning commission that they wanted to sit down and meet with us to pick 3 days this week that we were available. We did. Still haven't heard back from them. So hopefully we hear back soon so we can talk to them. But that's where we're at. Our builder is chomping at the bit. He wants to start doing this, and so do we. We heard last night that Barry and Mayor Linville are going down to talk to
30 seconds,
Lehigh.
please.
So we're just kind of curious where we're at. We haven't heard much back and kind of interested. So that's where we're at.
Ms. Brenna.
Thank you.
Yes?
Yes.
Well, the person was gonna work on it is our deputy executive, is that what Tyler's name is? Yeah, and he's on vacation, but he told me he was gonna get this, get this to us information really soon. And my question to you is, was the person from Ferndale, was that Yori Burnett? The guy who's the planning guy?
I really don't know.
Because I'd
It's
like
the
to,
planning
when you
director.
meet with him or whoever it is, I'd like to meet with him at the same time.
Okay, yeah, because we'd mentioned bringing Todd or somebody from county council because we
I'd
don't
like
actually know what's needed.
Yeah,
We know something's needed, how they gotta word it or what, so, yeah, when we finally
Yeah, let
set
me
up the
know.
meeting, we'll let you guys know and invite you guys to be there, so.
okay.
Mr. Donovan.
Just quickly, yeah, it's, I don't know what we're expecting out of Tyler, but some of us have met with the planning director to figure out what the possibilities, and I think this is what we were talking, what the possibilities are for doing something in the UGA that would allow the pilot projects that you folks have been talking about. And we were actually talking about this. That's where we're trying to move the dial, is not necessarily just with Tyler, but can we, and I'll just throw this out because I've had conversations with some members of the council, but not everybody. Now you've given me the opening in a public meeting, so I can do that. But can we do something that would be similar to what the city's doing in terms of allowing, whether we call them encampments or temporary, we're trying to come up, what are the wording for this is, in the UGAs, and there's probably more spaces in the UGAs if you took the same kind of ordinance that the city's trying to do. And that's the conversation that we've been having with our planning staff, and things don't go really fast, but that's a separate track from when you said, finding land. This is not about finding land. This is about like trying to find places where if a private landowner wanted to do something like that, we'd have the zoning that would allow it to happen. And I'm saying that so everybody knows that. That's
If you don't quit putting that in my face.
so that's a conversation I'm gonna have with.
I'd like to say one more thing I forgot to mention. We have half the money for the project in the bank sitting right now, so whenever we get ready.
That's
we
amazing.
move right on.
That's excellent.
Is there something that you, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Bird.
Thank you. I feel like I'm a safe business now. Is there something we can do? Can we send a letter to Tyler? Because that was my understanding as well, is that they were going to get back to us, and this is, what, 8 weeks ago? To get an update on this in 2 weeks? Because I'd like to know what we're doing as well.
He's
When's he get
on a
back?
beach. He didn't say, maybe a week or two, I don't know. But you could still send it over there and they'll get it to him.
Because
Yes.
it was my understanding we were going to be looking at property that the county owns as well, that might work for
That
this.
was
And
my
I haven't heard anything either, and I'm curious.
So, Mr. Buchanan.
I would suggest that, since you're the chair of the planning committee, I would suggest that you try to get that set up, maybe work with the clerk to work with the administration. And I'd love to have somebody come back in 2 weeks. And
We'll make it
Okay.
as a motion, and so we can all vote for it right now.
What would the motion be?
It would be that you will get a hold of Tyler through, or, his office, that we need an answer about what we need to do, what changes we'd need to make, if any, and how we can do it by the next council meeting.
Okay, I'll take that motion. I move for that. I move that.
I'll second that take.
Okay.
Did you get that, you guys? Okay.
So there's a motion and a second. Is the clerk clear on
I
what the motion?
just want to confirm, you want the information by the next meeting, or are you going to invite them to the next Planning and Development Committee meeting to?
Both,
Invite them to provide the information.
yeah.
Yeah.
We need the
Okay.
information.
So we have a motion and a second, and the clerk is clear on the motion. All right. So discussion. So the one thing I will say is that we have had some discussions with them, and the ongoing problem with this is, first and foremost, it's about access to water. It's about access particularly to sewage facilities, and doing so in an area that doesn't impinge on a critical area and complies with all the long list of state laws that we have little ability to influence. So I remain very supportive of it. I just want to express the fact that it's not an easy thing to navigate through all the way the laws are written, and particularly very legitimate concerns about health and safety when it comes to sewage and so forth. So, Ms. Brenner.
I think it could be made a lot easier, and I don't think practically everywhere is a critical area. I do think we can do this, and, if we say this is what we want it done, and we need the information in 2 weeks, then we can get started. If we have to change some ordinances, we'll do it. But this whole idea that, it's gonna be so hard, it's only gonna be as hard as anybody makes it be, and I don't want it to be hard.
But I will say that the discussions I've had, there's certainly a desire to find a
Good.
solution that works from the people I was talking to. So,
So we got the motion.
Mr. Bird.
I guess I have a lack of understanding here. I don't understand how it's possible for someone to sleep in their car or sleep in a tent in the forest
Long
without
term.
water or access to a toilet. But if we give them a structure that's well-built that doesn't have access to a water or a toilet, how that's somehow worse.
They
They're
could
not
do
allowed.
The same thing that they would do for the others, like what you said.
Like in Seattle, that's what I think.
Can I just say something on that? Seattle's TC5, they have 50 homes, 24, they've added 5 more. They just
Wow.
added 3 more dorm tents in TC5. They don't have water and sewer. They use porta pots and a gray water collection system, and it works great. And it's sanitary, they have wash stations there, so they can wash. They do have electric, but they don't have water and sewer. That is down the road a plan. They have the land to build it on. They're just trying to raise the money to connect to water and sewer. And so, water and sewer is ideal. We'd love that. It'd make our job a lot easier. But without water and sewer, it's still very doable. It's very safe down in TC5, as Barry saw when he went down there. So I don't want that to be the roadblock that stops us and say, well, there's no water and sewer. Like the jail site doesn't have water and sewer. I'm sure it's accessible, but the cost would be tremendous for us. But we could do it with porta pots, gray water, and the way TC5 does, we find a water company like Cascadia that they use down there that delivers the 5-gallon, 100 of them a week. So that's what they use down there.
And I will say that I've recommended to them that they look at alternatives such as using porta potties to deal with the
Right.
human waste issues. So
Okay.
further discussion?
I got one more point,
Burt.
actually. I'd like to say, what happened on Facebook with you here over the last couple of days with the post about your background, I think that was wrong, and what you're doing is fantastic as far as trying to move this forward. I appreciate the work that you've put into this and how much you've put into it and how consistent that you have been with it. And if someone has a problem with an idea, that's one thing, but to attack you as an individual who's passionate about something is entirely wrong, and I disagree with that. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
Ms. Brennan?
I don't do Facebook, so I don't even know what you're talking about, so
Somebody put my criminal
I
record
don't want
out
to
there.
even hear about it. I don't think it's, it just furthers whatever some jerk did. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
they just put my criminal record out there.
well,
I hate when people do that. to
we
me.
think, I think you're wonderful, so we don't care about anything like that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 6-0 with Mr. Sadhu excused.
My name is Dana Briggs. I am currently homeless, but I am sheltered within the confines of Bellingham. A couple of months ago, I came before all of you at the time that we had had yet another death, unfortunately, of a homeless individual in this jurisdiction. But I wanted to kind of piggyback on Jim's comments about where we're at with what the county is doing and what you, as the folks who we hire to govern on our behalf, and what things are going on, and so on and so forth. So let me give you my thoughts about this. First off, the rules that we write to do or not do things are done collectively. They're not done in isolation. They're not done just by those of you that are sitting up here. They're with the input of everybody else. And the rules can be changed, the rules can be challenged, the rules can sometimes be thrown out. And the reason that I say all of that is because even though there may be rules, many times they're totally unjust. We've known that throughout the history of this country. And if you know somewhat of the history of this particular county and the city of Bellingham, there have been totally unjust rules that have been written for more than 100 years that dealt, unfortunately, with people's skin color, among other things. So, what I'm asking you to do is, to use a trite phrase, think outside the box. Every time that you turn around and say that it's difficult for us to do something because state law or the county laws or the city laws have prohibited us from doing something, try and figure out a way, if it is a just thing to do, to either rewrite those rules or throw them out altogether. Nominally, we are supposedly a nation of laws. Unfortunately, we've seen way too often that we're more a nation of the rule of certain select groups of people who get away with all kinds of nonsense. But what we're trying to do on the local level, because we can see each other face to face, is do things that benefit all of us, which includes those
30
that are
seconds,
homeless
please.
and part of community. So keep that always first and foremost in your mind, that the homeless, regardless of what others may think, are part of our collective community, and they deserve as much support as we can give them, just as we would do the elderly, children, and those who unfortunately were born into the world with other challenges. Thank you.
Thank you.